This is your 7-day warning. You know that I have a brand new merchandise store, you know that I think the designs are super cool, you know that it's printed on champion clothing, so it's super high quality, you know that we ship internationally, you know that all merchandise ordered will arrive before Christmas, but what you may not realise is that you only have 7 days left to actually order it before it just disappears forever. Never again will there be Chuffed to Bits t-shirts. It's a real travesty. The link is down in the description. Now time to stop with all shameless self-promotions. In the previous episode of Hermitcraft, we met up with Iskall and we discussed all things Pacific. Pacific is going to be our new massive technical redstone store, and as you can see, Iskall has actually built up the framework for this thing. It's going to be enormous. We also spent at least 30% of the episode laughing at these ridiculous squeaky inflatable noises that we now have installed. Now, I was tasked with creating the Pacific Vault. This is going to be the research and development area where we're going to build up all of the technical redstone contraptions and really work through all the designing. So I've got a high security combination lock right here, incredibly secure, that opens up this absolutely enormous door that is going to drop us down into the vault. The only issue is at this point in time we don't really have much of a vault. We have this lake, or well, it's not really a lake. We have this puddle, and then we have a handful of chests. You know, we've got a beacon. That's one good thing, but I think it's safe to say that this is a little bit pants when it comes to research and development areas. So it's time to get my mining arms on, and we're going to go to town on this thing. It's going to be absolutely enormous. Let's fire up the time-lapse machine and get this ball rolling. And as I was taking out all of the blocks to build this thing, I started to realise just how much I've actually changed my way of playing Minecraft over the past couple years. You see, I always used to build things underneath the ground. Taking out massive areas to make way for huge parts of my base is something that I used to do all the time, because my base was predominantly underneath the floor. You know, if you went into spectator mode and went underneath the ground at one of my bases, there'd be like a little bit above, but then 90% of it would be underneath the floor. It would be like the ultimate hobbit hole. That is how I love to play the game. That's how I love to make my bases. That's what I really, really enjoyed. But then over the past couple years, I've kind of gradually shifted, and I've really started to enjoy the process of creating a cool looking exterior to a base and really spending time on the details, really making sure that it all works together and fits together to create an interesting looking build, and focusing less on actually just burying everything underneath the floor and trying to just make something that actually looks cool when you fly past it. And that's been a really interesting development, and it's not something that I ever thought I would do, because for the longest time I was actually scared of building up exteriors of big builds because I struggled with it so much. So it's been a really interesting shift over the past couple years. With that being said though, there is something incredibly satisfying about digging a massive hole, isn't there? I mean, just look at this place. It is totally ridiculous. Like, it doesn't need to be this big. It never needs to be this big. But with that being said, it totally needs to be this big. I mean, this room is so large that you can quite comfortably fly around it wearing your Elytra. That is like a sign of approval. That's when you know that you've built your structure big enough. The only slight issue is, it is horrendously ugly. I mean, look at this place. If I brought Iskall over here, he would vomit. He would literally vomit all over the floor, and that might improve it. You know, that might actually add some colour to the space. So we definitely need to make some improvements. I think first things first, I just need to make sure that the entire area is lit up, and it's not just going to be filled with mobs. So that's going to involve torches and quite a bit of carpet. And for those of you who like this sort of thing, you'll be very happy to hear that I am actually doing them in a pattern. Everything is perfectly separated. Everything is perfectly measured out. It's just a lovely grid of light. Oh, and don't worry, these torches will be going eventually. This is totally bringing me back to my Call of Duty Zombies days. Well, I think it's safe to say that this is already an enormous improvement, but there's still plenty of work that needs to be done. I think next up, it's, I don't know what's next up. Give me a second. Many seconds later. I kind of want to do the whole floor in these slabs, but the issue is it's going to require 30 stacks. And I mean, that was my first time opening the chest. I knew I wasn't going to have 30 stacks. I didn't realise I was going to have 0. Literally 0. But I guess I've said it now, so that's what we're doing. I'm doing the entire floor as smooth stone slabs. I mean, it will definitely make me happier. I'm definitely having one of those days today where I just want to do boring and repetitive tasks. You know, sometimes in Minecraft you want to do technical bits, sometimes you want to do builds, and sometimes you just want to repeatedly click the right click button without really having to think about anything. And after about half an hour of not thinking, my floor is now magically all completed, and things are looking more and more like a research and development centre by the second. But we need to do something about this. I've been putting it off and I need to stop putting it off because it's horribly ugly. Now I'm thinking instead of giving this place an entirely new wall, I'm going to replace all of the ugly blocks with regular smooth stone, and then we're going to add the detail on top to create texture. Look at me sounding all like a professional builder. But I genuinely think that's the best way to go, not just in terms of time. I really don't fancy building entire walls for this thing, but also in terms of look. When were these things added, by the way? Because what's funny is I still think of these as being relatively new blocks, but I'm just thinking they were in Hermitcraft Season 3. How long ago is that? A quick Google tells me that Season 3 started on October the 17th, 2014. These things are old as anything. What? Why do I still think they're new? I think the issue is I'm getting old. Now I understand. Everything feels new when you yourself are old. Oh, what a horrible realization. With that being said, I shouldn't complain because I think I'm still the youngest member of Hermitcraft. We've got 3 of the 4 walls done. The ceiling I'm still absolutely terrified to get started on. Yep, doing the ceiling is just as annoying as I imagined it would be. I can also barely see anything because I'm a moron who hasn't placed any torches up the walls. But despite these slight imperfections, I do believe everything is now fully completed and I'm being attacked by a zombie. As I say, moron. No torches, moron. So after 6 hours of work, I've now ended up with a room that looks like it was created using World Edit in around about 25 seconds. That's... I mean, I don't know how to feel about that. I think that's a good thing. I mean, I'm just gonna... I'm gonna say that that's a good thing. And for now, we're going to quickly move on from the actual laboratory itself, because currently this area is still horrendously ugly. Still we just have a lake and some chests and some grass and some fish. And also, we don't currently have really any form of official way to get down into here other than dropping down to here and then dropping down into the actual place itself, which isn't ideal. If I present this to Iskal, he will definitely just laugh at me. Loudly. Well, it's Iskal. He's always laughing loudly. I'll be honest, I'm not sure what I've done here could really be considered much of an improvement. In fact, I think I've managed to make things worse. But it is, of course, a work in progress. And as you can see, I've got this 3x3 hole right here, and this is going to be for the flying machine, which is essentially going to be our elevator. This is going to take us to and from the laboratory. Welcome to Pacific Labs. This is the R&D department of Pacific. It's top secret, so if you're not supposed to be here, please don't be. I would say that makes things pretty clear. So now the next job on our incredibly long to-do list for today is to build up the shaft that our flying machine is actually going to fly through. Now, this does not have to be particularly pretty, okay? It really doesn't have to be. But with that being said, I kind of want to make it look at least semi-decent. So on each of the corners, I'm going to have stone bricks, and then in the gaps between the stone bricks, I think I'm going to have smooth stone slabs. I'm kind of falling back in love with smooth stone slabs. For a very long time, I was considered the stone slab man. I would literally use them in everything. In fact, I think I even made a video talking about why stone slabs were the best block in the game. I did. So I think it's safe to say that I was pretty dedicated to the cause. Part 1 of the process is done. We've got the actual chamber all mined out. Now it's time for the addition of the smooth stone slabs, which that is now all done as well. And this thing is looking a lot more complete. It's looking a lot more finished. This is a good elevator shaft. But currently there is no elevator to actually go inside of our elevator shaft, so I should probably start work on that. And of course, it's just going to involve a flying machine that is going to go back and forth between the bottom and the top. With that being said, I want this flying machine to be a little bit fancier than usual. You see, the flying machine elevators that generally are built have a lot of ugly blocks in the top. They have observers, and they tend to have gaps and things where the pistons are, and they tend to look a little bit like this, which isn't great. Now, because of course this is Pacific, and Pacific is very technical, very fancy, we need to make sure that everything that we construct for Pacific is very technical and very fancy. So instead of having that, we're going to have a solid platform. Then down underneath here, we actually have 2 flying machines. So we're going to have 2 flying machines next to one another, 1 honey block, 1 slime block, and that should allow us to have a solid platform while still functioning. It's a tiny detail. It's like the tiniest of details, but it's those details that matter. So with our flying machines in place, now we have to work on building up the inputs for this thing, which means connecting a redstone line into the top and the bottom that will be activated simultaneously. It also needs to be activatable from the top or the bottom, which makes it a little bit more challenging than it first sounds. Now I've chosen to send this redstone signal downwards, making use of slime blocks, which, to be honest with you, might not have been the best decision, but I've committed to it now. And with everything constructed, I've realised a bit of a fatal flaw with my entire design. And that is the fact that there is no way to stop this thing up at the top without it being really, really ugly. And I mean, I don't entirely know what I'm going to do about this just yet, but I have had a bit of an idea, and that is to add some slabs to the side of this machine. So these slabs are actually stuck to these slime blocks here, which means this entire thing including these slabs, is going to be traveling upwards. And then when it gets to the top, those slabs will hit those slabs up there, and that will stop the machine, in theory. I mean, not in theory, it will stop the machine. It's just a case of whether or not the machine will actually get there. It might not be able to take off. But I guess we're about to find out, because... Alright, well that's not good. Although it may have just been a false alarm. I think one of the slime block sticky things was a little bit too long, so it was past the piston push limit, so the redstone signal wasn't reaching down to the bottom. Hopefully, yes. Yes, that works. That is working. So our little platform is on its way up. Now, it should crash into this stuff and stop. If it doesn't stop, it's going to continue through my entire base, and that's going to be a huge issue. But here it comes. And there we go. I mean, I think it's safe to say that that's pretty flawless, eh? That is pretty flawless. And now we need to try descending down, which also looks like it's working very nicely indeed, and hopefully that does actually stop at the bottom and doesn't completely break itself down there, because I haven't really checked that area out yet. How's it looking? It is looking good. It is looking good. Everything looks like it has worked properly. Success. Absolutely enormous success. And you'll be happy to hear that all of the bottom circuitry is working perfectly as well, so we can send the elevator up, and we can also request the elevator back down using this button right here. So that means that we have got controls on both ends of the elevator, which means that all the elevator bits are now all done and dusted. Everything is completed, so now we can get back to making this place look a little bit less world edity and a little bit more interesting. But first, there's something that I really want to do. Actually, there's a couple of things that I want to do. The first one is to check and see if the Industrial Day Pass store is doing well. And it looks like it kind of is. I mean, 30 diamonds. Is that good? I don't know if that's good. It's definitely more diamonds than any of my other stores have been making, so I'm going to say that it's good. I think it's fair to say that I don't have quite such high hopes for this one. Oh, hang on. It looks like there's actually some kits missing. But those were just the ones that I used when I forced my kits upon other people. Might have to do a little bit more of that. I mean, that was the most successful day that Oh Dear ever had. And it was really the only products that this store has sold. Maybe Iskall is right. Maybe we should retrofit Oh Dear into being Pacific. However, what I really want to do is I want to come over here and I actually want to make use of the treasure island again. I know, it's ridiculous. I've spent far too many diamonds here, but I've made a decent number of diamonds here. And Iskall is now selling TNT, or at least sort of selling TNT. So I have to put a diamond in the chest. That's that. And then I press the button. And I got nothing. I got I got absolutely nothing. But if I do it again, that sounded good. What did I get? I got dirt. I'm not sure how much of a fan I am of this store, but I'm going to keep going. I don't know if you know this, but recently I made 30 diamonds from my Industrial Day Pass store, which means that I've got 30 diamonds to spend. And I plan on spending all of them. Absolutely all of them, by the looks of it. I mean, things are not going well at this point in time. They're really not going well. Oh my goodness. Oh. More dirt. I got excited, then I thought it was TNT, but it definitely wasn't. Oh. It's dirt again. Come on. Dirt. Yes! Yes! We got TNT! We got TNT! That is good. That is good. Okay. I'm gonna keep spending my diamonds. That was not so good. I am down to my last 2 diamonds out of the 30, and I only have 1 piece of TNT to show for it. And it sounds like... Oh my goodness. 30 diamonds. 1 TNT. Oh gosh. Why is this store so addictive? Why is it so addictive? I just can't help myself. I literally can't help myself. As soon as I earn some diamonds from any of my stores, I immediately go and spend them at Iskall's Treasure Island. We're partners. Shouldn't I be getting this stuff for free? I'm gonna have to speak to Iskall about that. Right, here we are at Iskall's Treasure Island, and the whole place has been pretty well excavated. Like, there is very little empty land in this area, but I think I've found a spot where it looks like no one's really been. There's this little poke hole, which I've now just fallen into. And there's this one, which leads directly down to a barrel. So obviously someone's gotten very lucky there, but it doesn't really go anywhere else other than straight down. And then there's these ones, which once again, they kind of go straight down and around in this area, but they don't cut into this land mass underneath this tree. Now, either people know something that I don't, or this is unexplored terrain that could house barrels. So I'm going to make use of my pesky dirt by placing it in there, and then I'm going to place my TNT on top, and this is where I'm going to do my exploding. So I guess let's hit the button, stand back, make sure that I don't die, and oh yes! I mean, is that good? I got really excited about the fact that I managed to find a diamond block, right? I mean, there's the barrel. I got excited then that I'd found the barrel, but obviously that is the poke hole that was earlier. So I found a diamond block. This is good. I mean, it's definitely not bad, but I've still made quite a catastrophic loss. I'm 21 diamonds down, but it's fine. I still feel good. I still feel like I've won. I like this place. So here's what I'm thinking. I think we actually use this torch grid that I created, where all of the torches are spaced 4 blocks apart, to then create a grid out of stone bricks on the walls. So this is a grid that's going to go upwards, actually on the walls, and then it's going to crisscross on the ceiling, and it should end up looking very industrial, but also just cool. I mean, already that looks cool. So I guess the first stage of this process is actually getting it in on all of the walls and getting a feel for how that looks to start off with, and then we can start moving on to the roof stuff, which I've kind of already accepted is going to be an absolutely enormous pain in the backside. But this looks good, and with that over halfway done, it still looks good. It's also, I'm not going to lie, really, really easy. So with that absolutely flown through, now it's time for the slightly more challenging bit, which of course is the ceiling. And I think I've come up with the most efficient way of doing things, which is to have this strip of blocks in the center, and then I can just about reach on either side and make progress on 3 branches instead of just doing 1 at a time. I am also toying with this idea of having some lights in the grid up at the top, and I kind of really expected to like that immediately, but I'm not 100% sold on it. With that being said, I think that could be because I can see a lot of the light edges at this point in time, whereas they would be covered in the actual design. But then do I feel like it needs more depth? Honestly, I don't know what I'm talking about. Having built up a decent chunk of it, I've decided I'm not really a big fan of the lights. So I've taken those out, and I'm going to work out a different lighting solution a little bit later on. Much block placing later, our entire roof grid is now all fully built up and done. And it looks pretty mean, especially now that all of the lights have been removed from it. I mean, I'm going to get a first look at this thing when I break down all of the dirt. Yeah, I mean, that definitely looks industrial. This looks like, it looks like a hangar. It 100% looks like a hangar, and that's kind of what we're going for here. So as previously mentioned, I am quite liking the darkness, but with that being said, I would kick myself if I didn't experiment a little bit with light. So I've got myself a lantern on the end of 3 chains here. And it does look quite cool, but I don't think we could have too many of them. So I would say if we had one here and then maybe one there, and it's kind of every other one, they're alternating, then that would give some nice shape to the light. Spoken like a true cinematographer. Yeah, I definitely think this looks a lot more visually interesting than this. Okay, let's get it built throughout. And throughout actually isn't really that much. You see, I still want to play around with the idea of darkness. I don't want this to be completely flatly lit. I want to have some contrast in there. And I would actually say that this is the right level of contrast. So we have that little band of darkness going through the middle there, but also we have this dark pool in the center. I am a fan. I am a fan of this. I am a massive fan of this. This is cool. So let's get some empty shulker boxes. And let's clear up all of this junk. Remove these ugly chests. Pick up all these. Admire this glorious structure one more time. Now with the very last minute addition of this Pacific sign, which I genuinely think makes the entire space like 300% cooler. Ride the elevator back up to the surface. I think I can still make it. Whoa, that was the Mission Impossible stuff. Close up my super secure piston vault door. Good, that still works with all the new redstone I've done. Clear up all of these shulker boxes and all of this junk. And finally, put this horse out of his misery. He's been chilling in this water the entire time. Ever since I built up this area, he's been stuck here. A lot of you have felt sorry for him, so I killed him. I don't know if that's I don't know if that's better, actually. And on that note, it's time to end. This has been a really fun episode of Hermitcraft. I do hope that you enjoyed it. And I will see you again soon. I forgot my outro. But I tell you what I haven't forgotten. Some more shameless self-promotion. Yeah, the merchandise is still available. Thank you ever so much to everyone who's picked up the merchandise. I really do appreciate that. It's going incredibly well. People seem to be really happy with the designs. They appreciate the fact that it's printed on the champion clothing. That seems to be a common theme. So, yeah. Grab it while you can. 7 days left. Hi. Welcome to the super secret end of video club. It turns out this Hermitcraft episode was very weird. There was 130 clips. That's a load of clips. Way more than usual. And there was 27 minutes of footage. But then after I cut the beginnings and ends of all the clips, because there was so many of them, it came to 19 minutes and 30 seconds, which is a bit too short. So I thought I'd add this bit at the end to say, you're all wrong. You're all wrong on the code. No one has guessed it right yet.